Hey everybody, today I'd like to do a really brief tutorial on video transitions. And so the most common transitions that you'll see in video is just a basic crossfade. This is often combined with a black or a white to do like a fade to black or fade to white. But either way, it's just sort of a gradual fading where one image or video blends with another, and that blend transitions from one video to the other in sort of a gradiated fashion. And so I was having a conversation very briefly out on Blackmagic's forum for Blackmagic Fusion, and out here someone asked, how do you achieve this video effect when it comes to transitions between things? I consider this a transition, even though technically it's kind of snazzy. It's a pretty snazzy one, but I'll first show you the clip and then I'll take you through 3 examples of ways you can do similar-ish transitions or just basic transitions in Blackmagic Fusion, and then hopefully you find something useful in this. But you'll find that the coolest looking one happens to also be the easiest one to do in Fusion. So let's take a look really quick at what the demo was. So here's this, if you want to go check out the URL, here's what was on display for us to examine. And that's just a pretty basic flips, it's almost like a flip card or something like that, where the video is cut in half and it kind of dangles and droops. Elements I don't like about it are the fact that it kind of has this, I'm going to mute this temporarily, it kind of has this breaking line, and maybe people like that, but I kind of don't. I think it, I guess it makes it obvious what's flipping and what's not, sort of through that line, and here it is on an angle. I don't know. It's a little bit, I get it though. So anyway, how do you do this stuff in Fusion? Well, what I did is I've created a very basic set of comps here that hopefully explain how this stuff works. And so first what I did was, I'm going to show you what I did rather than do it again, so hopefully you can follow along. I dragged and dropped this picture of sort of an Alaskan range and just put it in this normal way, and then I brought in a picture of this I don't know, this other mountain range with some beautiful water, and then I merged the beautiful water shot into the background and then the Alaskan range into the foreground. Again, the way you do that is you're just dragging and dropping from those clips. Whoops, let me click on the line itself. From this up and over with a right click and a drag, and then you say I want this in the foreground. And so with that set up, the basic blend transition is pretty easy to do, right? So that's what I'll first show the blend transition. This is coming over here to viewer 1, and what you do is you take the merge between them and then you just animate this blend slider. Pretty simple, right? So if you want to go from, say, like this shot, I'm going to double click this sets the merge blend for animation. This whole thing, let's say, will be 60 seconds long, or a minute long, so we'll go 120. We'll go 3 of them, so that's, what is that, 30, 60, 90 seconds. Okay, so at the 0 mark, it's showing that. Let me change this down to something like 120, so we just shorten up our timeline here. If I go to 30, this is where I want it to really start. So I want to be sure I want to set the blend again. I set a keyframe here because I want from 30 to 60. I want to change the blend. Whoop! So it transitions, and then the rest of the way it'll stay on that. So you get a second of the green Alaskan range, a second of this very bluish, probably European mountain range, and then if I play it through, it should transition there. So that's your basic transition, right? And there, in 4 minutes, with a whole bunch of superfluous talking, I showed you how to do a basic transition. So how do you do that crazy sort of flipbook transition? Holy man, there's probably a better way to do this, but this is the way I figured it out. So, what in the world? Okay, let me explain it. I have basically top halves of those 2 images, and bottom halves. And the way I did that was, if I show you the image here, and then one player, I just used this rectangular mask tool. So if I show you that mask, you can see here it's just 100% of the possible width that it can be, or 1.0 versus 0.0, and then I just dragged it up to the top half of the image. And basically what you want to think about is you want to think about what is covering what to reveal what. So I am going to do the same thing where if you scrub through this, you see this background. But what I did is I decided I'll make it fade back, like a dodge back a little bit, to kind of reveal that we're doing a flip. And all of that flip action, I'm doing that transition of making it flow backward by keyframing the size of all of that mess there, and then making that the foreground and this little galaxy image the background, right? And so what happens is when it's time to animate, so it sits there for for 1 second, then it animates back to 50% for the second. Then it should, up here on the tops, it should transition. Wait a minute, here's the tops. Yeah, this is the foreground, this is the background, I believe. If you hover this, it'll tell us, yep, background transition and foreground transition. So I want to make the aspect, even though I'm masking just the top half of this image, let me go back here. I'm altering the aspect of that image using the transform controls from its normal aspect to 0 or 0.01 or something like that, as you can see there. And then that folds up because of the mask, only revealing the top half. But then what's behind it, because this is a foreground, this is a background, what it shows behind it is the top of those trees. And then I do the same thing with the bottom half. As soon as the first half does that transition, then I basically have already folded up this to 0, and I'm translating its aspect back out to 1 again, which unfolds the bottom half of that trees image. So it kind of makes it look like that flipbook, right? Bloop, bloop. And then it sits there for a second. Actually, it doesn't. It just immediately goes back to this transform where it's trying to go back to 100%. So again, if I had to play this through, you would see it do this little flipbook effect. You'd see it pull back. If you're looking up here, do the flipbook effect, and then push forward again. That's cool. It's kind of what the other thing was doing. It was doing that little flipbook thing. But it did a nice little dangle move at the bottom. Admittedly, that's pretty cool. So is there another way to do this? This is kind of poor man's 3D. It's 3D in 2D. And you know who does this really well? Adobe After Effects. It does it super well. Not to pick on them, but I'm totally going to pick on them. They do this kind of transition all the time. We used to take 2D shots and try to make them pseudo 3D. So now, I mean, obviously now there's true 3D space in After Effects, but manipulating real 3D space is just not as intuitive as what you're about to see here in Fusion, which makes this next bit awesome. So basically what I've done here is I have a 3D space, and this 3D space is comprised of my 3 assets. The galaxy background, let me go over here and move around a little bit. I have that mountain background, and then behind that, let me move a few things here. Behind that is the trees background on the mountain chain. But notice that the trees background, if I come in a little closer, the trees background is actually upside down. I don't know if you can see that, but it's flipped 180 degrees. And then I have a camera, and I back that camera off. And then, so you'll see that what I've done is that to pull this off, I had to say, take the galaxy, the Alaskan range, the European range, put them on their own 3D image planes, which you see here. Then I scaled up the galaxy plane, as you can see here, 1.87. And then I sent them all into the merge, and it's a 3D merge, so there is no like foreground background. You're messing with that in this 3D space. Again, kind of like After Effects a little bit, I guess. So, kudos to them. Anyway, from here, I need a 3D renderer. That's what we're seeing over here. So there's the one dot, right? And that's what we're seeing over here. But we need a 3D camera so it can, do the render the way we mean it to. And so what I need to do to pull this off is have it sit here close to the camera with that blue European looking mountain range. And then after the first second, I bring it back to like just tenths of centimeters from the other mountain range there. Let me fit this a little better. Let me go back to the start here. So I need to zoom in this a little bit more. So let's fiddle with stuff while we're talking about it. Why not? Okay, so I'm going to pull this forward just a smidge more. There we go. So now it's filling that camera view now that I've hit to fit. And then when it goes and it starts moving, it should start moving at 30. You know what? I screwed that up. This is what I mean to do. I need to clear this Z offset. That's how I'm moving it. And the same with this one way up front here. And clear that one too. And then we're going to go to 30 where it starts to transition. And I'm going to adjust it here. So I'm going to grab the Z offset and pull it just a smidge forward. There we go. So now this will stay in its position for 30. Then it flies back, as you can see up here, to meet the other. Now we have the space one big enough in the background that it sits there. Now when this lands here, notice that there's a Z offset of 0.37 and a rotation of 0. Now I keyframe the rotation on that. But if I go up here to this other Alaskan range, it's got a keyframe of it's got a Z offset keyframe of 0.35, so a little bit behind it, but it's flipped 180 degrees, like I said, upside down. When this flips to 180 degrees in 100 and up to from 60 to 120 frames or 60 frames later, it does the same thing with that image plane. So it goes from 180 degree flip to 360 degree flipped. And what that does is it makes it look like if you're looking up here. And then I also trade their positions in the Z offset. So if the Green Mountain range was 0.35, it comes up to 0.37. If the Blue Mountain range was at 0.37, it transitions back to 0.35. And now when they rotate, it looks like they're two movies that are sort of back to back, right? Like they're stuck together, or two plane surfaces floating in space, like 2010 Odyssey or something like that. And my goodness, it's full of stars. Anyway, that's a bad joke. And so now we've made the flip. And I'd venture to say it's a cooler flip because we see much more of the angle here to this. It's not just like this perfectly vertical isotopic flip or something like that. So it's more 3D. And now it brings that forward again. And this endpoint should be wrong because I forgot to change it. So if I come up to 150, I now need to grab the offset of the Green Mountain range and have it end a little more forward. There we go. And then it'll stay there to the end of 180. So let's take a look at that. Let's save that. And then let's play it through. And it'll probably be a little dodgy here as it chugs along and does its work. But then it will cache itself. Rest assured. And then we'll see it play much faster, and then it looks awesome. Let's see it here, much faster. I love that Starscape. It makes me feel like I'm in a Spielberg movie. Boom, boom. Let's see if If we can't get this to cache a little better. So I just flipped on the proxy there just to get a little more caching going on. I'll scrub a little slower. Sometimes scrubbing slower, it takes the time to render the frame, so it goes ahead and puts that frame into cache. And this will just sort of manually help us build our cache. And then we should see the thing really cruise. And maybe I'm crazy. Maybe it does it on its own all the time. But scrubbing it just helps to satisfy my soul, like something's going on. Okay, let's go ahead and have a look here. Drop back. Flip. Outer space. Back to the mountain range. Now tell me that ain't cool. I mean, you could do that all night long by transitioning lots of different clips, one to the other, and then putting, and then maybe keyframing them away from the scene or making them invisible. Adding like you could do like 2 clips, flip them, and then add a brightness contrast filter that you animate to 0 really quickly in the next frame, so that set of foreground background pieces kind of disappear, and then you've got another set in the same position with the last image you saw and the next video, and have it flip again. I don't know. There's a lot of different tricks you can do, but at 16 minutes and 30 seconds, that's good enough for a quick demo. I hope this was helpful. Feel free to like the video and subscribe if you want to see more. Leave a comment if you have any comments, and be sure, and if you make cool videos that use these transition effects, link to them down in the comments as well, so we can all celebrate your work. Okay, thanks everybody, and have a great day fusioning.